The world tasted of dust and fear. Not the metallic tang of blood fear, but the gritty, clinging kind that coated the tongue and lined the throat, making each swallow a conscious act of defiance. Above, the moon, a sliver of bone in the inky canvas, offered scant comfort, casting long, skeletal shadows that danced and writhed with every phantom breeze. My breath hitched, a small, traitorous sound amplified in the oppressive silence. It felt like the very air held its breath, waiting, listening. Every nerve ending screamed, a chorus of tiny alarms, urging me to run, to disappear, to become one with the suffocating darkness. But running wasn't an option. Not tonight. The buildings around us were ghosts, hollowed out husks of what they once were, their windows like vacant eyes staring into the abyss. Each doorway, each darkened alleyway, a potential grave. The air hung heavy with the scent of decay, rotting wood, stagnant water, and something else, something acrid and unsettling that clung to the back of my throat. It was the smell of despair, of lost hope, the ghost of lives extinguished too soon. The weight of it pressed down, a physical burden that threatened to buckle my knees. We moved like shadows ourselves, phantoms flitting through a city of the dead, each step measured, each breath controlled. The silence was the worst part. It wasn't an empty silence, but a pregnant one, teeming with unseen eyes and unheard whispers. A silence that amplified every creak, every rustle, every imagined footstep. A silence that screamed louder than any explosion, a constant, insidious reminder of our vulnerability. It wrapped around us, a suffocating blanket, isolating us in our fear. We were alone in the heart of enemy territory, adrift in a sea of shadows, clinging to the fragile hope of survival. The weight of the rifle in my hands felt strangely comforting, a familiar anchor in this swirling vortex of dread. It was cold and hard against my skin, a tangible promise of protection, however fleeting. I tightened my grip, the metal biting into my palm, a small pain that grounded me in the present moment. I closed my eyes for a fraction of a second, picturing her face, the curve of her smile, the way her eyes sparkled when she laughed. It was a dangerous indulgence, a chink in the armor of detachment I so desperately tried to maintain, but it was a necessary one. It was a reminder of what I was fighting for, of what I had to return to. Her name was Alara. It meant, Shining One, a cruel irony considering the darkness that had consumed our lives. We met during the evacuation, amidst the chaos and the despair, two lost souls clinging to each other for warmth. She was a medic, her hands stained with blood and dirt, her eyes filled with a weariness that belied her age. But even then, even in the face of unimaginable horror, she possessed an unwavering spirit, a fierce determination to alleviate suffering. I saw it in the gentle way she tended to the wounded, in the quiet strength she exuded as she navigated the wreckage of our world. I remember the first time she smiled at me. It was a fleeting, hesitant smile, but it was enough to crack the ice that had formed around my heart. We were huddled together in a makeshift shelter, sharing a meager ration of stale bread. The air was thick with the smell of fear and disinfectant, the sounds of sirens and distant explosions a constant backdrop to our conversation. We talked about everything and nothing, about our hopes and dreams, about the lives we had lost. And in that shared vulnerability, a connection was forged, a bond that transcended the horrors that surrounded us. Her laughter was like music, a melody that cut through the cacophony of war. It was a sound I hadn't heard in years, a sound that reminded me of what it meant to be alive. She had a way of finding joy in the smallest of things, of seeing beauty in the midst of ugliness. She taught me to appreciate the simple things, the warmth of the sun on my skin, the taste of clean water, the sound of birds singing in the distance. She reminded me that even in the darkest of times, there was still hope to be found. I carry her picture now, tucked safely inside my vest, close to my heart. It's a faded, dog-eared photograph, taken before the war, before the world turned upside down. In it, she's standing in a field of wildflowers, her hair blowing in the wind, her eyes sparkling with joy. It's a reminder of what I'm fighting for, of the life we hope to rebuild, of the future that awaits us, if we can just survive this night. The thought of her is a shield against the fear, a beacon in the darkness, a promise of a brighter tomorrow. It allows me to breathe, to move forward, to keep my silence and survive. The air hung thick and heavy, pregnant with the unspoken. We were ghosts, flitting through the periphery of their lives, our existence a secret we desperately clung to. A dog barked in the distance, the sound amplified in the stillness, each yap a hammered blow against my skull. Marco squeezed my shoulder, a silent command to stay sharp. We pressed on, deeper into the labyrinth of narrow alleys, the smell of spices and wood smoke clinging to the damp air. Then, the radio crackled. A coded message, urgent and clipped. Contact. Grid Delta 9. Ambush imminent. My blood turned to ice. Delta 9 was here. We were walking into a trap. Marco cursed under his breath, his eyes scanning the rooftops. There wasn't time to retreat. Our only hope was to find cover, to prepare for the inevitable. He pointed to a crumbling brick building, its doorway swallowed by shadow. We moved as one, our boots silent on the cobblestones, adrenaline coursing through our veins. Inside, the air was stale and thick with the smell of decay. Dust motes danced in the slivers of moonlight that pierced the darkness. Marco positioned Ramirez and Silva by the windows, their rifles trained on the alleyway. I took point, my heart hammering against my ribs, the taste of fear bitter on my tongue. The silence stretched, an agonizing eternity. Then a noise. A footstep. Then another. Closer. Marco signaled. We held our breath. Figures emerged from the darkness, their faces obscured by shadows. They carried AK-47s, their movements purposeful, predatory. The ambush was sprung. Marco fired first, a deafening roar that shattered the silence. All hell broke loose. Bullets ripped through the air, tearing chunks from the brick walls. Ramirez and Silva returned fire, their M4s spitting lead. I dove for cover, the ground vibrating beneath me. The fight was brutal, chaotic. The enemy was relentless, their numbers overwhelming. We were pinned down, our ammunition dwindling. I saw Ramirez take a hit, a crimson stain blooming on his chest. He crumpled to the ground, his eyes wide with shock. Silva screamed his name, his voice raw with grief. Marco barked orders, his face grim. We had to break out. We couldn't stay here. Then I saw him. A young boy, no older than 10, peering out from behind a stack of crates. He was watching us, his eyes wide with terror. In that instant, everything changed. I couldn't shoot. Not with him there. I hesitated, my finger frozen on the trigger. It was a fatal mistake. A bullet whizzed past my head, shattering the brick wall beside me. I stumbled back, disoriented. The boy screamed. Marco saw what happened. He knew I was compromised. Without a word, he shoved me behind him, shielding me with his body. He unleashed a furious barrage of fire, buying us time. "Get out of here!" he yelled, his voice hoarse. "Take Silva and run!" I didn't argue. I grabbed Silva, who was still cradling Ramirez's lifeless body, and dragged him towards the back of the building. We scrambled through a hole in the wall, emerging into a maze of back alleys. We didn't look back. We ran. That night replays itself in my mind every time I close my eyes. The deafening roar of gunfire, Ramirez's lifeless eyes, the boy's terrified scream, Marco's selfless sacrifice. The guilt is a constant companion, a weight that crushes me. I see Marco's face in every crowd, hear his voice in every whisper. He saved my life, but in doing so, he condemned me to live with the knowledge of his death. Back home, the medals and commendations mean nothing. They're just empty symbols, a hollow mockery of the truth. I tried to return to normal life, to find some semblance of peace. But the war followed me home. It lives in my nightmares, in the tremors that shake my hands, in the constant fear that gnaws at my soul. I jump at sudden noises, flinch at loud bangs. The world is a dangerous place, full of hidden threats. Sleep offers no escape. I wake up screaming, drenched in sweat, the echoes of gunfire still ringing in my ears. My wife tries to comfort me, but she can't understand. She wasn't there. She didn't see what I saw. The distance between us grows wider with each passing day, an unbridgeable chasm of unspoken pain. I avoid crowds, preferring the solitude of my own company. The faces blur together, a sea of strangers, each one a potential enemy. I see suspicion in their eyes, judgment in their smiles. They don't know me. They don't know what I've been through. They don't know the price I paid. Sometimes I catch a glimpse of myself in the mirror, and I barely recognize the man staring back. The lines on my face are deeper, the eyes are haunted. I'm a ghost, a shadow of my former self. The war stole my innocence, my youth, my very soul. I'm trapped in a cage of my own making, haunted by the ghosts of the past. The silence, once a tool for survival, has become my prison. There is no escape. The radio crackled, a voice strained and urgent. All units, be advised, target neutralized. I repeat, target neutralized. Return to base. Relief washed over me, so potent it almost buckled my knees. We had survived. But at what cost? I looked at Reyes, his face etched with exhaustion, the youthful spark in his eyes dimmed by the horrors we had witnessed. He met my gaze, a silent acknowledgement of the invisible scars we now shared. The rain had stopped, and a sliver of moon peeked through the clouds, casting an eerie glow on the devastated street. We were alive, but the city, the people, were wounded. We moved with the rest of the squad toward the extraction point, the silence broken only by the rhythmic thud of our boots and the distant wail of sirens. Each step was a testament to our resilience, but also a reminder of the fragility of peace. The city, once a vibrant tapestry of life, now lay in tatters, its dreams scattered like dust in the wind. I thought of the faces I had seen, the fear in their eyes, the desperate hope for survival. They were the reason we were here, the reason we risked our lives. But had we truly made a difference? Or were we merely pawns in a larger game, destined to repeat the same mistakes? As we reached the extraction point, a transport vehicle materialized out of the darkness, its engine a low, menacing growl. We boarded in silence, each lost in our own thoughts, the weight of the night pressing down on us. I found a seat near the window and watched as the ravaged city receded into the distance. The moon, now fully visible, cast a cold, indifferent light on the scene, as if bearing witness to our struggles without offering solace. I closed my eyes, trying to shut out the images that haunted me, the screams that echoed in my ears. But they were there, etched into my memory, a permanent reminder of the darkness we had faced. Back at base, the atmosphere was subdued. There were no cheers, no celebrations. Just the quiet acknowledgement of a job done, a battle survived. We were given a brief debriefing, a perfunctory medical check, and then dismissed. I walked to my quarters, the familiar surroundings offering little comfort. I stripped off my uniform, the fabric heavy with sweat and grime, and stepped into the shower. The hot water cascaded over me, washing away the physical dirt, but unable to cleanse the stains on my soul. I scrubbed until my skin was raw, but the images remained, vivid and unyielding. Later, lying in my bunk, sleep evaded me. The silence of the room was deafening, broken only by the frantic beating of my own heart. I stared at the ceiling, the darkness a canvas for my fears and doubts. Was I a hero? A protector? Or just a killer, desensitized to violence, complicit in a cycle of destruction? The questions swirled in my mind, unanswered, unanswerable. I knew that I would never be the same, that the night patrol had changed me in ways I could not yet comprehend. I had seen too much, done too much. The innocence of youth was gone, replaced by a hard-won knowledge of the world's brutality. Finally, as dawn began to break, a fragile peace settled over me. I knew that I could not erase the past, but I could choose how to face the future. I could honor the lives lost by striving for a better world, by fighting for justice and compassion. I could use my experiences to make a difference, to be a voice for the voiceless. It was a daunting task, but I was not alone. I had Reyes, I had my squad, and I had the memory of the faces I had seen, the hope in their eyes. We were the survivors, the keepers of the flame. And we would not let it be extinguished. I rose from my bunk, the weight of the night still heavy on my shoulders, but with a newfound determination in my heart. The sun was rising, painting the sky with hues of gold and crimson, a promise of a new day, a new beginning. The silence had broken, and in its place, a quiet resolve. The war was not over, but we were ready,